Revealed, how a CEO's anger turned to heartwarming discovery after finding his MAID'S hidden code. Jake stared out from his high-rise office, the gray clouds matching the storm brewing inside him. He was a billion-dollar CEO draped in a tailored suit, a king in the corporate jungle. But today, anger pulsed through him like a live wire. Where was that proposal? He rifled through papers, frustration mounting. Then he spotted a worn notebook wedged beneath a stack of crisp contracts. Something about it tugged at his memory. It belonged to Rosa, his maid. He flicked it open, and a series of strange codes spilled out, dizzying and intricate. What was she hiding? A dark secret? His stomach twisted. But beneath the suspicion, a flicker of curiosity ignited. He couldn't fathom why this ordinary woman, someone he barely acknowledged, would fill pages with secrets. Beneath his white-hot rage was an unnerving fear of vulnerability he'd long buried. A knot tightened in his chest as he flipped through the coded entries. The rain beat against the glass like a dull drum, creating a rhythm that matched his chaotic thoughts. It felt like those nightmarish days back in the old neighborhood, when life was uncertain, and dreams were just whispers in the winds of gentrification. Remembering his family's struggle scratched an itch of shame he thought he had rid himself of. He set aside his work and zeroed in on Rosa's code, convinced it held the key to some hidden truth. As he meticulously decoded each line, a vivid world unfolded before him, tales of her family's journey from distant shores to America's streets, full of hope and dreams that resonated within him. He read about the sacrifices Rosa made, the values she fought to instill in her children amidst turmoil. With each revelation, his heart softened. A wave of compassion crashed over his indifference, washing away years of ignorance. He could see parallels in his life, the support and love that had shaped him, only to fade in the relentless pursuit of success. The memories prompted an uncomfortable question: who had he become? Suddenly, he wasn't just a man tethered to fame and fortune. He was a human being, searching for connection in a world that had lost its kindness. The realization struck him with the force of 1,000 storms. He remembered his laughter with family at the old dinner table. The roots that formed his ambition now felt like chains keeping him from true happiness. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With this newfound awareness coursing through him, Jake faced an unsettling choice. Could he reconcile the life of privilege he built with the heartwarming truths he now uncovered? His dreams felt impossibly intertwined with Rosa's trials. Could he build a bridge between their worlds, or was he too far gone? The rain fell harder, masking his turmoil as he sat in silence. The weight of his past pressed on him tightly, waiting for an answer. Could he find the courage to connect with those he had overlooked? The thought hung heavy in the air, and Jake took a deep breath, heart racing, at the edge of something profoundly transformative. What lay ahead was a journey he never imagined, one filled with hope, understanding, and the possibility of redemption. Jake's heart raced as he turned the pages of Rosa's notebook. Each line of code carried a story, rich with emotion, and he felt himself getting drawn in deeper. The rain continued to pour outside, echoing his inner storm, but he found solace in the words on the page. With every sentence, he saw Rosa not just as a maid in his luxurious home, but as a woman with dreams, struggles, and a fierce devotion to her family. He looked out of the window, his reflection distorted by the rainfall. A sense of longing washed over him. He thought of the distance he had created between himself and the world he came from. Wasn't he the kid who once marveled at the simplest joys of life? Now, he sat in the cold embrace of his office, cocooned in wealth, yet feeling more alone than ever. The emotional weight of Rosa's story urged him to take action. What if he reached out to her? It was a thought that seemed absurd when juxtaposed against the pristine walls of his office. The idea of vulnerability frightened him. Would she think he was just playing the part of the noble CEO? Or worse, would she see through the guise and recognize the emptiness he concealed? He jammed the notebook shut and leaned back in his chair. The frustrations over the proposal were nowhere near as pressing now. The echoes of laughter and warmth from his childhood felt miles away. "What happened to you, Jake?" he murmured to himself. It wasn't just about decoding Rosa's notebook anymore, it was about decoding his own heart. The following day dawned gray and overcast. He couldn't shake the desire to know more. Walking through his home, Jake could feel the emptiness of the spaces his possessions had filled. The lavish furnishings, the art, the marble floors, they all felt like a shrine to a life he wasn't sure he wanted anymore. He found himself wandering into the kitchen, the heart of his home, where Rosa spent countless hours. Here, the smell of baked goods lingered, hints of cinnamon teasing his senses. He glanced around, half expecting to find her there, apron on, music humming in the background. The moment felt sacred, almost reverent. He spotted her notebook again, resting on the countertop near her stack of recipes. Jake picked it up, holding it like a fragile artifact. What if he invited her to explain her code? What if he asked her about her life, her kids, her hopes? He could feel the pulse of connection brewing, a possibility he had brushed aside far too long. But what would she say? Would she view him as just another privileged man trying to assuage his guilt? Doubt nagged at him, but the longing for a genuine connection was stronger. Later that evening, he resolved to speak to her. As he wandered into the living room, he could hear the rhythmic sound of a mop against the hardwood. Nerves bundled in his stomach when he began to approach the door. He hesitated, thinking of all the years he had overlooked the people who made his success possible. Taking a deep breath, he stepped inside and cleared his throat. "Rosa?" She looked up, surprise painting her features. "Mr. Brooks? Everything okay?" Jake shifted. The moment of truth had arrived. This would open the door to an entirely new path, one he was both terrified and exhilarated to walk. "Can we talk? I found your notebook." Her expression shifted, curiosity piquing her interest. He saw the spark of vulnerability in her eyes mirroring his own. "I want to understand," Jake added, his heart hammering in his chest. But before he could explain further, footsteps echoed from elsewhere in the house. An unexpected knock resounded through the hall, and just like that, the moment fractured. Jake felt a twinge of disappointment but also determination. Whatever was behind that door could wait. This conversation was too important to let slip away. As he prepared to delve into the worlds they both had navigated, he couldn't help but wonder who or what was waiting behind that door. Something stirring inside him urged him to move forward, to seize this opportunity for connection. What awaited him on the other side could change everything. The knock echoed louder, pulling Jake back to reality. He took a step back, momentarily caught off guard by the intrusion. Rosa's curious expression reminded him of the gravity of the moment. He needed to reach out to her, and not let whatever disturbance came through that door halt the connection they were on the brink of creating. "Just one sec," he called out, forcing a casual tone, though the knot in his stomach refused to loosen. Yet, behind his determination lay the fear of rejection. What if she didn't want this conversation? He turned his gaze back to Rosa, who was wringing her hands, the doubt creeping back into her eyes. "Maybe it's not such a good time," she suggested softly. "No, it is." He felt urgency coursing through him. "Let us not stop now." Another knock, this time louder and more insistent. "Mr. Brooks." "It's me, Sam, the project manager." Jake's shoulders dropped slightly. He had completely forgotten about the meeting with his project manager. But right then, priorities felt different. "I don't think we can suddenly." Rosa's gaze shifted past him. "Maybe you should get that," she whispered, her voice a blend of hope and disappointment. "No. The word burst from his lips instinctively. He wasn't ready for the world outside, not at this moment. Not when he was on the verge of opening up to someone who, until now, had been just a face in his life. Sam knocked again. "Jake, this is important." Jake inhaled deeply, glancing back at the door, then to Rosa. Her expression was unreadable, caught between curiosity and resignation. "Please," he pleaded. "Just give me a minute." Rosa's tight smile broke, and she nodded. Jake felt a wave of relief wash over him as he closed the space between them, the distance evaporating like morning mist. "About your notebook," he began, trying to find the right words, keenly aware of the vulnerability that now hung between them like a fragile thread. "I want to know more about it. It meant something to you." "It's just code," Rosa replied slowly, her voice barely above a whisper, but he could see her spirit flickering like a flame being tended to rather than snuffed. "It's more than that, Rosa. It's you." Jake stepped even closer, desperate for connection. "Can you show me how you created it? All those characters, the emotion in each line. I want to understand." Her eyes searched his, uncertainty flickering like a candle in the wind. "You truly want to learn?" He nodded firmly, conviction flowing through his words. "I do. I want to know you." The knock at the door grew impatient again, but this time, it felt distant like a background noise to what was unfolding in the kitchen. The walls between them were cracking, and he could see Rosa begin to soften, her walls lowering just a touch. "Okay," she said, her voice barely a sound. "But it's complicated. It's not just lines of code. It's everything I couldn't say out loud." "Then show me," Jake urged, filled with a sense of anticipation as he gestured to the notebook clutched tightly in her hands, eager to learn her story, to unravel the threads of her life. Just as she opened her mouth to respond, the door swung open. Sam stood there, breathless. "Jake, we really need to," but Jake wasn't ready to be pulled back into that world. Not now. He could see the mixture of confusion and determination in Sam's eyes, as if sensing the tension swirling in the air. "Can't this wait?" Jake asked, an edge creeping into his voice, feeling a fire stirring within as he faced Sam. "Come on, man. This is about your future." Sam started, but Jake wasn't listening anymore. All he heard was the rhythm of his heart, pulsing alongside the deeper need for connection, a need that grew with every breath he took, vibrating in the silence as he turned back to Rosa. "What do you say?" he asked her, determination shimmering in the air like electricity. But before she could answer, Sam stepped closer, sensing that lives were about to intersect in profound ways. "Wait, what is going on here? You can't just ignore." The tension in the kitchen thickened, and Jake could feel the barest edges of his world begin to fray. Rosa stared at them both, caught between the two worlds she had thought she never belonged to. In that moment, Jake knew that everything was about to shift. But the question loomed large: would he find the courage to embrace this new beginning? With the stakes rising and tension building, the kitchen felt both like a new world alive with possibilities and a battlefield of choices. What would Jake decide when he was faced with the fork in the road, as Rosa prepared to piece together a part of her life he hadn't yet understood? Jake felt a rush of heat creep up his neck as he stood there, the air thick with tension. Sam's voice buzzed in the back of his mind like a persistent fly, impossible to ignore but utterly frustrating. He had a decision to make, and it seemed the weight of the world rested on his shoulders. "Sam, this can't wait," he insisted, keeping his eyes trained on Rosa, whose gaze flickered between him and the doorway. "Not right now. But it is important. We have deadlines, Jake. You can't just throw everything away because you're feeling what? Nostalgic?" Sam's tone grew more insistent. He was practically bursting to step into the room, ready to rip Jake from the moment that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. With a determined step, Jake moved closer to Rosa, blocking Sam's prying eyes from their private moment. "Rosa," he said, his voice low and warm, "can we really dive into this? I feel like we're standing on the edge of something incredible. Rosa hesitated, looking down at her notebook as if it were a fragile creature. What if I don't know how to share it? She asked, vulnerability spilling from her words. What if it's messy? And what if you don't like what you find? Jake could feel the surge of empathy flooding through him. Life is messy, Rosa. And I want to see all of you, the messy parts included. I promise I won't turn away. Her eyes met his, and he saw a flash of something hope. Relief? It was hard to tell. Just then, Sam let out an exasperated sigh. Jake, think. You're jeopardizing your job over what? A conversation? Sam. Please. Jake ground out, frustration boiling beneath the surface. Give us a moment. Rosa shifted, her focus swinging back to Sam. You think this is a conversation? She asked, her voice steadier now, like she was finding her ground. This is my life we're talking about. This is everything I've put into this notebook, things I've hidden away because I thought no one would understand. Jake nodded, sensing that they were edging closer to something profound. And I want to understand. Enough of this. Sam shot back with a bark, his frustration spilling into the room. People have lost their jobs for less, Jake. You can't throw everything at this, but Jake wasn't listening. He stepped forward, creating a barrier, a sacred space just for them, and he turned back to Rosa. Please, show me. The air between them shimmered. She slowly opened the notebook, revealing pages filled with code and colorful sketches, a world that reflected her heart. It was raw and personal. It's everything I've struggled to express. Things that make sense only to me, she whispered, her fingers tracing the lines. Jake felt a wave of awe envelop him, his heart racing as he peered closer. This is beautiful, he realized aloud, his voice barely above a whisper. And it was. It was like a window into her world, a glimpse at her hopes, fears, and untold stories. The tension in the room shifted. Sam stood there, caught between his responsibilities and the gravity of the moment unfolding before him. For the first time, Jake could see the ripple effects of his choice. Rosa's expression began to soften, and she looked at him, her breath hitching slightly. You really mean that? Absolutely, he replied with unshakable sincerity. But just as a smile threatened to breach her lips, Sam interjected again, but how long can this last? You can't ignore reality. In that moment of uncertainty, Jake felt the ground beneath him quaking. Was it possible to teeter between two worlds at once? As daunting as that thought felt, he had a choice to make: stay in the safety of obligations or leap into the unknown with Rosa. Maybe the reality we face can change if we're brave enough, he said, almost breathlessly. And with that, the stakes were higher than ever. Would Jake find the courage to walk down this new path with Rosa, to embrace a life he had never dared to imagine? As the silence stretched, thick with possibility, Rosa lifted her chin, determination shining in her eyes. I'm willing to show you everything, she replied softly, the weight of her words entwining with hope. What lay ahead felt uncertain yet thrilling, and for the first time in a long while, Jake realized he didn't want to look back. But as Rosa began to reveal her secrets, would Jake be ready to fully immerse himself in her world, or would the past come crashing back to claim him? Jake felt the air shift between them as Rosa held her breath, her eyes reflecting a spectrum of emotions he had never quite seen before. He could sense the weight of her stories dancing at the edges, poised to spill into the world. He didn't want to look away, not now. Okay, she finally breathed, glancing down again as if gathering courage from the pages. Let us start with this. She flipped the notebook to a page filled with swirling colors, intricate patterns resembling both chaos and creation, a digital landscape that felt alive. What is this? Jake asked, feeling drawn into it like an explorer on the brink of a magical discovery. It's a project I've been dreaming about for years, she said, her voice trembling slightly. A game, sort of. It combines my art with coding. It was my escape when everything felt too overwhelming. An escape? Jake echoed, feeling a pang of understanding. He could see the tenderness in her hands as she traced the lines, as if she were showcasing her heart itself. From what? Rosa hesitated, vulnerability thickening the space between them. From life. I've always felt like I didn't belong. My mom worked so hard, and I felt this pressure to find my path, to succeed and fit into a world I couldn't understand. Her admission hung in the air and Jake's heart clenched. There it was, an invisible tether pulling tighter with every word she spoke. He pushed aside his own worries and focused on her, focusing on the determination behind her eyes. Do you think it's possible for the world to change if we let ourselves be who we really are? Rosa's features softened, her voice fevered with hope. Maybe if we're brave enough to show what's inside. Sam stood just outside the door, listening, uncertainty thick on his brow. Jake could only imagine the turmoil brewing in him. But you're risking too much, Sam called out again, frustration lacing his words. You can't bet your future on a dream. Maybe our futures deserve a chance of being more than just practical. Jake shot back, turning momentarily to face Sam. We all dream about something beyond what's expected, don't we? It's time we take steps toward that. The room felt electric. For an instant, everything seemed to collide: Rosa's hopes, Jake's daring, and Sam's resolve. He turned back to Rosa, his expression softening. I want to help you. This project, it's part of you, and you deserve to share it. Rosa's eyes brightened, but then a shadow crossed her face. And what about your job? What if all this costs you everything? With you, with this journey, I'm learning what truly matters. Connecting with what's real, it's far more valuable. For a moment, time stood still. The tension twisted in Jake's gut, swirling with thrill and fear. What would happen if he stepped further into Rosa's world, leaving behind the safe path laid out before him? Would he become the man he wanted to be, or would he be lost in the chaos? Rosa moved closer, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm scared, Jake. What if we sink? I'm ready to risk it, he responded, knowing the stakes were higher than ever now. I want to dive into this unknown with you. Together. Her eyes searched his and, for a heartbeat, Jake could see the walls crumbling around her, bit by bit. This was a turning point, a moment teetering on the edge of boldness and uncertainty. As she began to unveil more of her creation, her excitement rippling through her words, Jake felt a rush. But in the back of his mind, he couldn't shake the feeling that Sam's presence loomed as a storm cloud, ever unpredictable. And it was as if the universe shifted, a knot tightening in his chest, foreseeing a coming storm. Jake, Sam interjected sharply once more, don't think you can keep this up and avoid the consequences. They're coming, whether you want them to or not. As Jake turned again, he felt the weight of the world at his back. Would he have the courage to fight for this newfound connection, or would reality tear it away? In that moment, everything felt possible yet terrifying as he faced what lay ahead. Would the beauty of Rosa's vision be strong enough to withstand the storm brewing around them? Rosa's fingers danced over the page, filling the air with an electric anticipation. Jake leaned closer, spellbound by her passion. See, every color, every line, they represent parts of me, pieces of my journey, she explained, her voice growing stronger. When I code, I'm not just putting together scripts, I'm crafting a world where I can finally belong. Her words resonated deep within him. He could feel the fire of her aspirations, igniting something within himself, urging him to believe in more than what was laid out before them. This isn't just a game to you, is it? He said softly. It's your voice. Exactly, Rosa nodded, her eyes brightening. But what if no one wants to listen? What if I put everything into this and it fails? The corner of Jake's mouth tugged up. Failure isn't the end. It's a part of the journey, right? Think of what you'll learn along the way. And remember, I'm in this with you. But, as the words left his lips, a weight settled in the pit of his stomach. Could he truly balance supporting her with his career hanging by a thread? A fleeting gaze at Sam reminded him of the stakes doubt and fear were wrapped around their conversations like a dark cloud. Enough of this fairy tale nonsense, Sam interjected, his voice slicing through the moment like a cold wind. Jake, you think you can just gamble everything on this whim? You're better than this. Jake straightened, anger pooling behind his eyes. You don't get it. This is more than just a whim, Sam. This is her life. And if you can't see that, maybe I'm the only one being realistic here, Sam shot back, his frustration radiating across the room. Dreaming doesn't pay the bills, and you're setting yourself up for a fall. Rosa exchanged glances between the two men, her expression shifting from excitement to concern. She reached out to Jake, her hand gently touching his arm. I don't want to come between you both. I appreciate you supporting me, but I couldn't bear to see you put everything on the line for my dreams. Her words hung heavily in the air. The truth was, there was a risk, a danger that stretched beyond just their relationship. What if it all fell apart? What if he lost his job, and there was nothing left to catch him? Look, Jake said finally, trying to remain calm, just give me a chance to explore this with Rosa. Let us see where it takes us. Sam shook his head. This isn't just about you two anymore. You are playing with fire. There's a world out there that expects you to conform. You might just burn everything to the ground. The intensity of the conflict deepened. Jake felt the thrill of rebellion mingling with the icy chill of fear. So what? He challenged. What if I want to burn it all? To forge something real, something meaningful. Isn't that worth it? Rosa's grip tightened on Jake's arm. In that moment, time stretched, revealing how thin the line was between dreams and reality. Would it be possible to turn those dreams into something more tangible? Or had he already lost too much? Jake turned back to Rosa, reading the mix of hope and uncertainty etched in her face. Together, we can create something that's rooted in who we are, he said, the determination evident in his voice. You showed me that. Let us take that leap. But the shadows in the room grew darker, and the whispers of doubt loomed larger. Sam's anger simmered quietly, threatening to explode as he laid out his next words. You think this is just about following your heart? What if you lose it all? Rosa drew a sharp breath, her eyes darting between the two men. And as the storm sounded in the distance, Jake stood at the center of a brewing tempest. The stakes were rising, and uncertainty clung to every breath in the depths of his heart. He knew he was ready to leap. But would the crash be worth the fall? Would he be brave enough to uncover what truly lay beneath the surface? What if this choice meant confronting not just the game but the darkest corners of their lives? Rosa's heart raced, caught between two worlds. In front of her stood Jake, radiating conviction, while the shadows of Sam's disapproval hung like heavy clouds. What a contrast this was, a flicker of light against an impending storm. Believe me, Sam, Jake said, voice steady despite the tension swirling. I know the risks. But it's about more than just a job, or money. It's our dreams, our chance to create something more. She could feel the warmth radiating from Jake, like the sun piercing through thick fog, and for a fleeting moment, she wished she could bottle it up. Fine, Sam said, frustration lacing his tone. But you're going to regret this. You may think you're invincible, but life has a way of knocking you down. He turned on his heel, fists clenched, and stormed out, the doors slamming behind him. The silence that followed felt heavy, almost thick enough to slice through. Jake and Rosa stood there, eyes locked, the gravity of it all sinking in. Are you okay? Jake finally whispered, his gaze softening. Rosa took a deep breath, feeling the weight on her chest lift slightly. I will be. It's just hard knowing how much is at stake. Jake nodded. I get it. But you're worth it. This project, everything you've worked for, it's all worth it. He stepped closer, and she could feel the heat radiating from him. It was comforting yet daunting. "So, what's the next step?" he asked, a small smile creeping onto his lips. Rosa's fingers itched to dive back into her work. "Well," she began, her eyes lighting up the way they had when she first spoke about her vision. "We need to start building. I want to create a prototype, something that captures my world." Jake's excitement mirrored her own. "Let us do it. Together." He took her hand, intertwining their fingers, sending a jolt of energy coursing between them. But beneath the surface, a war still raged. Doubts whispered to her, and she couldn't help but wonder, could she really turn her dreams into reality? As they settled at the table, Jake pulled out his laptop, a flicker of determination in his eyes. "Show me what you've got. Let us make this happen." Rosa released a breath she didn't know she was holding, ready to present her ideas, her heart spilling onto the table in vivid colors. The hours slipped by as they brainstormed, Jake's laughter mingling with her thoughts. Ideas bounced back and forth, each one feeding the other. It was liberating. But as night crept in, shadows returned. The conversation turned serious. "What will we do if this doesn't work?" Jake asked, worry etched on his brow. Rosa hesitated, her own fears creeping in. "I don't know, I guess I'll have to find another job." Maybe this was just a "don't say that. This isn't just a pipe dream." "It's your life," he interrupted, his voice earnest. "I know, but I can feel Sam's point, deep down." "What if we fail?" she murmured, vulnerability slipping through her brave facade. Jake's eyes softened, and he squeezed her hand tighter. "Then we learn. We grow. And we get back up again. That's the part of the journey that shapes us, Rosa." The weight of uncertainty lingered there. She searched his expression for reassurance, and in that moment, everything felt possible. But what would happen if Sam returned? Would he really let them chase their dreams, or would he stand in the way? As they immersed themselves in their work, the question echoed in Rosa's mind, could they withstand the storm brewing outside? And all at once, she realized it wasn't just about the project. It was about fighting for the chance to truly live, unleashed and unrestrained. And then, a sound shattered the night, a loud knock at the door. Heart pounding, Rosa and Jake exchanged worried glances. Who could it be now? What awaited them outside that door? Rosa's heart lurched at the sudden knock, each pulse echoing in her ears. She shot a glance at Jake, who looked equally startled, his eyes wide. The clock on the wall ticked ominously, each second stretching into an eternity as they waited. "Do you think it's Sam?" Rosa whispered, her voice barely above a breath. "Maybe," Jake replied, his brow furrowing. "Or someone else. Should we answer?" She nodded, but uncertainty wrapped around her like a heavy blanket. Finally, she stood up, inching toward the door as if it were a precipice. Each step felt monumental. With a shaking hand, she turned the doorknob and opened the door just wide enough to peek through. The light from inside spilled onto the porch, revealing an unexpected figure. "Hello," the person said, bright-eyed and cheerful. It was Jess, one of Rosa's old college friends. Rosa felt her shoulders drop in relief, but a tinge of confusion remained. "I was passing by and thought I'd stop in." "Jess! What a surprise!" Rosa exclaimed, trying to shake off the tension. As she opened the door wider, inviting her in, she noticed the glint of curiosity in Jess's eyes as she swept her gaze between Rosa and Jake. "Wow, am I interrupting something?" Jess grinned, raising her eyebrows playfully. "Not at all," Jake answered, stepping forward with a welcoming smile. But inside, the air shifted. The dreamland they'd been building moments before felt suddenly more fragile with a third presence. Jess settled into a chair, her energy filling the room and dimming the shadows of doubt that lingered. "I've been thinking about you two a lot. I heard through the grapevine you're working on a new project." Rosa felt a spark of courage ignite her spirit again. Yes, we are. Actually, we've got some initial ideas, and, she paused, glancing at Jake for support. We'd love your input if you're interested. Absolutely. I'm all ears. Jess leaned forward eagerly, her hands clasped as if bracing for an exciting story. Rosa took a deep breath and began sharing her ideas. The more she spoke, the more she felt the doubts drift away like autumn leaves in a breeze. She described the vision, the essence she wanted to capture, the dream she hadn't fully admitted to herself yet. Jake chimed in, adding his thoughts and complimenting Rosa's vision. The conversation flowed seamlessly, laughter replacing the tension that had shadowed the room just moments earlier. Jess nodded, her enthusiasm evident as she jotted down notes and proposed new directions. But amidst the chatter, Rosa noticed a flicker of concern cross Jake's face. What if we do fail? He whispered, low enough that only she could hear. The vulnerability in his voice made her heart ache. You're still here with me, Rosa assured him softly, squeezing his hand as Jess animatedly discussed an idea. In that quiet moment, she realized their dreams were intertwined. They were stronger together, a truth that resonated louder than any fear. Just then, Jess paused, seemingly sensing the shift in the atmosphere. Hey, you okay? You both look a little serious. Rosa forced a smile, but inside, she felt the weight of their risks and uncertainties intertwine with hope. Yeah, just talking about our next steps. It's a little nerve-wracking. Totally understandable. But remember, falling isn't failing. It's just part of the journey, Jess said, her tone warm yet firm. Rosa felt a spark of warmth as those words sunk in. They were more than just ideas, they were testimonies of resilience, of passion. And then, before she could respond, a loud crash echoed from the back of the building, stirring both distress and curiosity through the room. Rosa's heart raced once more, a wave of fear rushing over her. What was that? She exclaimed, eyes wide with alarm. Jake shot to his feet, a determined look in his eyes. I'll check it out. But something held Rosa back. Wait, maybe we should all go together. As they moved towards the noise, Rosa's mind spun with questions. What danger lurked behind the shadows now? Would it pull them apart or bring them closer together? With their dreams on the line, and now a potential threat, they had no choice but to face whatever awaited them. One thing was clear, nothing would ever be the same again. Rosa stepped into the dim hallway, the air thick with tension. Jess followed closely behind her, eyes wide and expectant. Jake led the way, his back straight, every fiber of his being alert as he approached the source of the noise. Each step felt like a countdown, every creak of the floorboards echoed like warning sirens in Rosa's ears. The exit leading to the backyard stood just at the end of the hall. Whatever had caused that crash, they would soon uncover. With a quick glance, Rosa caught Jess's eye. There was assurance there, a silent promise that they would face this together, no matter what. Jake threw open the door, and they all stood in the doorway, peering out into the yard, which lay under a veil of twilight. Shadows crept around the edges like dark fingers. Broken branches lay scattered on the ground, evidence of something that had toppled. It was unsettling, to say the least. What the hell happened? Jake muttered under his breath, stepping cautiously outside, followed closely by Rosa and Jess. The air had turned colder, heightening Rosa's sense of unease. As they walked, Rosa's heart sank at the sight. The old oak tree that had always been their sturdy anchor in the backyard was now half fallen, its massive trunk split in two. Strangely though, it wasn't just the tree that caught Rosa's attention. Nestled in its roots was a metal box, slightly ajar. A chill crept up her spine as she approached it. Do you think there's anything inside? Jess asked, her voice laced with curiosity. Only one way to find out, Jake replied, bending down to get a closer look. Before Rosa could voice her thoughts, he reached for the box and, with a gentle tug, pulled it free from the debris. Rosa's heart raced as Jake opened the box. Inside, they found a collection of aged papers, some yellowed and curled at the edges. "What is all this?" he asked, sifting through the contents with delicate fingers. Rosa felt a mix of anxiety and excitement bubbling in her chest. "Maybe it's old letters or something," she suggested, stepping closer to see better. What could they possibly reveal? A forgotten secret, lost history, or even a treasure? What if it's worth something? Jess chimed in, her eyes sparkling with the thrill of discovery. Jake held up a particularly large envelope, its seal intact. "Only one way to find out," he grinned, and carefully broke the seal. As he pulled the contents out, Rosa leaned in. The first page was blank, but there were more beneath it: handwritten notes, sketches, and strange symbols. "What do you make of it?" Jake asked, puzzled. Rosa's brows furrowed as she studied the symbols. "It looks like some kind of code. Maybe a diary or journal of sorts." Just as she said this, an unsettling thought crossed her mind. "These could be personal," Jess interjected, a hint of respect in her tone. "Maybe we shouldn't pry too much." But the intrigue had already taken root in Rosa's chest. What stories lay hidden, waiting to be uncovered? Who had buried this box, and why? Suddenly, the wind picked up, sending a shiver down her spine. The atmosphere shifted, it felt electric charged with both excitement and caution. Rosa's mind raced. What if this was linked to the dreams they were fighting for? "Let's take this inside," Jake suggested, seeing the indecision in Rosa's eyes. She nodded, her curiosity overpowering the need for caution. As they retreated to the house, Rosa couldn't shake off the feeling that this was just the beginning of something much bigger, a revelation poised to change everything they had thought they knew. Once back inside, Jake spread the pages across the table. "So what now?" he asked, the thrill of the unknown hanging in the air. Rosa stared at the notes, her heart pounding. "Now we decipher it. And who knows? It might just lead us to something incredible." But then, a feeling of foreboding began to creep in. What might they unearth both about the past and themselves? As they leaned over the table, the shadows around them grew, hinting at secrets yet to come. What had they stumbled upon, and would it change their lives forever? Rosa felt the thrill of discovery blend with trepidation as they gathered around the table, the metal box opened before them like a gateway to an untold narrative. The room felt charged, energy crackling between them. Jake's eyes sparked with enthusiasm, and she couldn't help but share that excitement, even as uncertainty gnawed at her insides. The first page, blank yet demanding, felt like a blank slate for their future. Yet it was the scrawl of symbols and sketches beneath that pulled them deeper into the mystery. "What if this tells a story?" Jake asked, his voice intensifying with the thrill of the unknown. Rosa chewed on her lip, examining the symbols again. "It reeks of personal history," she declared, her voice steady. "But whose? And why did they leave it here?" Her fingers brushed the edges of the delicate pages, a chill of reverence running through her. Jess, ever the optimist, clapped her hands together. "Let us see what we can uncover. Maybe it's a treasure map, or maybe a love story." She mused, her laughter warming the room. Jake chuckled. "Or the secret to a hidden fortune." But the playful banter had an edge. Beneath their laughter lay a shared anxiety, a question of what they were climbing into. The wind rattled the windows outside, trying to pull their attention back to reality, but Jake leaned in closer. "Okay, let us ignore what could go wrong. What if we find something that changes Rosa's dreams?" He shot her a look, sincere and filled with hope. Rosa felt her breath catch. "It could fuel my project, that's true," she conceded, excitement bubbling again. "We could create a game that dives into the layers of the past, how people intertwined their lives through stories and codes. It could be incredible. Let us do it." Jess cheered, pointing at the notes, her enthusiasm infectious. We can turn these sketches into characters, each with a different layer of complexity. Rosa nodded, the vision igniting in her mind. Yes. It could show how history affects us and how we can rewrite our futures. But as she spoke, the weight of what lay ahead loomed over them like storm clouds, and she shot a glance toward Jake, wondering if he found that risk intoxicating or terrifying. Just as they delved into the sketches, the ground beneath them seemed to tremble. Jake stood abruptly, his expression shifting as he turned toward the doorway. Jess and Rosa followed suit, all sensing a tension tightening around them. "Did you hear that?" Jake asked, the moment pregnant with uncertainty. A shadow crossed Rosa's face. "Perhaps it's just the wind," she began, but her heart raced. Her instincts told her something more was at play, and dread settled in the pit of her stomach. Suddenly, the door swung open with a force that surprised them, revealing Sam. His expression was a mix of fury and bewilderment. "What the hell are you doing?" he barked, his voice echoing through the now quiet room. "This isn't just a game." Jake stepped forward, jaw set. "We're about to transform this into something meaningful, Sam. Something that matters." "Meaningful?" Sam scoffed, disbelief hanging in the air. "You think this random box of papers will help you? You're risking everything." His eyes flared with frustration, but lurking behind it was something deeper concern. "I realize what's at stake," Jake replied, his voice unwavering. "But we're chasing something real. I can see it in Rosa. This moment it's a turning point. Or will you just stand there and wait for the world to tell you what's possible?" Rosa watched as tension churned in the air, wringing her heart. Sam crossed his arms, clearly struggling with the weight of his opinion versus the fervor of Jake's conviction. "I'm trying to protect you both," he insisted, the frustration pouring out. "And you don't see the real world behind those dreams." "Sam," she interjected softly, "it's more than just dreams. It's my life's work, and it's tied to the past, to who I am. Every symbol on those pages contains a piece of someone else's story. What if we are the links that thread those stories together?" Sam looked between them, caught in the limbo of past agreements and a future he couldn't fathom. "So you're going to risk everything on this gamble? Where is that line between dreaming and delusion?" With each question, Rosa could feel the edges of possibility bending a fragile dance of hope and fear. But she couldn't let Sam dim the flame that had begun to burn brighter within her. "Let me be brave," she said, her voice softer but steady, meeting Sam's hesitant gaze. "This isn't just about me anymore. It's about all of us learning how to embrace our past and reshape our futures." Sam blinked, layers of frustration thawing slightly. And as he stood there, perhaps just a choice away from connection, Rosa felt the energy in the room flicker. It was no longer just about Jake and her aspirations, it was opening the door to something bigger. Then, Sam finally said, his tone shifting just a hint, "Show me what you found. Maybe I can't see your world, but I can at least try." The room breathed rhythmically, an exhale of relief and possibility once more stirred. Rosa felt the vision blooming again, the pages before them now a tapestry of shared journeys. They could weave their realities into something that shimmered with truth. Excitement surged through her. "Let us start again. Together. Let us write a story," she said, determination lacing her words. Jake nodded confidently, looking at both Rosa and Sam. "Yes, let us embrace this. It's a chance for us everyone to connect and grow." And as they gathered closer around the table, the sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating the pages strewn before them, filling the room with warmth and possibility. They had crossed an invisible line into a brave new world, one where stories of the past danced with visions of the future. In that moment, they realized together, they could not only rewrite codes but also embrace the labyrinth of their hearts, leading them to redemption, understanding, and finally, freedom. The road ahead was unwritten, and it felt thrilling. In the depths of uncertainty, they found strength, and with shared determination, they were ready to chase the extraordinary. And as they dove into the mystery before them, Rosa felt something shift deep within. This was a beginning, a canvas stretching ahead filled with endless potential. Together, they would birth a new legacy, one that would resonate through their lives and into the lives of others. Would they uncover the beauty buried within and carve paths so bright the shadows behind them would fade away? Only time would tell. But in that moment, the answer felt undeniably within reach. Now is the time to ignite your own adventure. You need to subscribe now to join us for more heartwarming transformations and inspiring stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed that algorithm. Comment below with your thoughts about this ending. Your voice matters. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this powerful journey of connection and courage. Together, let us spread the magic.